This is the regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan, Manitoba, this 5th day of December, 2023 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade, Councillors Brian Burick, Carrie, Blosha, Kushniryk, Reeve, McGregor, Neely, and Byron, Zbirun. Our interim CIO is here, Pat Ellingson. Our videographer, Jeremy Bergen, was here, then he left, but he's probably coming back a little bit later on. Initially, we had this agenda set up because we didn't know Mr. Zbirun was going to be here, so yours may still have a resolution there for excusing his absence, but that's been removed from the main agenda. So we're going straight to number 2. Be it resolved, the agenda for the regular meeting of council held this 5th day of December 2023 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely. Does anyone want to make any additions or changes to the agenda tonight? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We'll head to number 3. I don't see minutes attached here yet. Is there minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to that one in a bit. Because they're not attached there yet for us to see. Let's go to general business 4.1. Be it resolved, the November report of the Swan Valley Fire Department be received. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. A copy of the report is attached there for council to take a peek at. It's also available on the public agenda. So it details now, we used to only see calls that came in for Swan Valley West, but because now it's the one fire department, we also see the town of Swan River calls. So the report shows everything where they went to. It also shows if they were invoiced. So there's a couple on there you can see false alarm calls where they invoiced $350 because in Swan River there's a bylaw that provides for if your fire alarm system keeps calling out the fire department, you get charged for it. Also some calls for Swan Valley West, including one that was an NPI call. It was invoiced for almost $1,100. You'll see there's an iPhone crash detector there as well. We keep getting those. In the new phones now, if you drop your phone hard enough, it thinks you crashed and it calls 911 to help you. But if you didn't really crash, it's not a lot of help. But they're happy, like in some cases it's really good. If you actually do crash and you can't grab your phone, it'll call for help for you. But if your phone falls off the dash onto the floor, it'll also call for help for you.
I'm not to get one of those.
A couple training sessions were held there as well, and more to the point of what we're discussing immediately before the meeting, there's a couple fire inspections were held. That was at 124 7th Avenue and 500 Duncan. Both of those resulted in findings of non-compliance along with Manitoba Health, and both of those properties were boarded up and are currently closed at the order of Manitoba Health.
This will live on forever, the way it lives on.
I was shocked that nobody burned it down yet, but hey, good. Maybe they'll fix it up someday. We could hope.
The fire out my way, that was a 82 man hour thing.
Yeah, big fire. Any questions or discussion on that report? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor of the resolution? That's carried. 4.2, Finance Officer. We discussed this earlier on electronically between us. Are we comfortable bringing this now, or do we want further discussion in camera first? We're good now? Okay. Be it resolved that Lois Borland be hired for the position of Finance Officer. Be it further resolved the signing officers for the Municipality of Swan Valley West be updated to be Interim CIO Pat Ellingson, Finance Officer Lois Borland, Reeve Gade, Deputy Reeve Brian Burick. Is there a mover for the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk, would someone like to second? Councillor Neely. Any discussion?
I was going to put his hand up.
You need him to.
I got my name on there.
I was going to tell you, you got to put your name. Yeah.
Any discussion? Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Let's head to financial items. General Cheques. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General Cheques number 19326 to 19358 and 19360 to 19363 in the amount of $358,344.41. Is there someone who would like to move the resolution? Councillor Neely. Someone just second the resolution. Councillor McGregor. I have a copy of the checks here. You'll note the one has been set aside. That's because we found it to be a duplicate check. Normally our computer would catch that, but it didn't because the first check was written to a slightly different name than the second check. So that's why it slipped through, but thankfully Councillor Blosha is eagle-eyed and saw it before we got to it tonight. Big checks here tonight. We have the Adams contracting check that relates to the Sarah Lake Road. Other big checks, Minister of Finance, there's 47,000 there. There's actually, that is
Assessment levy.
Yes. So
There was one for 22 and then another one for 23.
so normally we pay it once a year, but this is the second time we're paying it because last year's hadn't been paid. So we paid it, now we're paying this year.
Say how we paid it twice. It's on here twice. No, it screw up. Well, it screw up on the floor.
Yeah.
There's $20,000 to the Snowmobile Association. That's courtesy of the Community Foundation, so that's the flow-through funding. That worked. Urban construction was the Beaver Dams. Urban construction,
Yes.
Beaver Dams.
Yeah.
Ward 6, pipe, trenching, Beaver Dams. Ward 6, I think it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
Yeah. Everything goes to work.
yeah, everything, at least a little bit doesn't.
Excuse me, but, that 20,000 you mentioned, how does it work?
So the Community Foundation, CRA has updated the rules, so they can give directly to them yet, but the Community Foundation hasn't chosen to follow the new rules. So far as yet, they still grant it to the municipality, and the municipality grants it to the snowmobile club.
Oh, okay.
So the Community Foundation writes us a check for 20, then we turn around and write the check back.
I see now, the community foundation, newsletter or whatever that's done.
Hopefully, they're gonna start doing it the other way, it would save us a step. If we didn't do it, they wouldn't get the money, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not,
Yeah, we need to make it happen.
I'm not worried about it, I just want to clarify. That's a word of the night.
Airmaster Sales is the radar sign for Benito. It is here and it's on its way to be installed. I sat in the office here for a couple days. I left earlier today and went through for the meeting. It's heavy.
What sign is that?
That speed
Oh, the
sign.
one that's always here, not roll about.
Yeah, it says speed up, Councillor Neely, you're going too slow again.
How does it mount? Is it mount on a pedestal or is
So,
it mount on a
because
sign?
Because it's on a highway, it has to be on a wooden post. So a few weeks ago, before the ground was frozen, we installed the post.
Okay.
So the post has been there waiting, so we didn't try and dig in the winter.
Okay.
It's on a 4x6-inch post, which is a fair sizable post, but highways recommended that over a 4x4 because the signs do tend to be heavy. We can't use a metal post because on Manitoba highways it must be wood. So if a vehicle hits it, it shears off. A metal post could
Okay.
hurt somebody, right?
And whereabouts is it going to be put on?
It's 100 meters north of Railway and Highway 83.
North of the rail. Okay.
So it's basically,
There's
if you know where the
park.
ball diamond
Yeah.
is, you know the skate park is,
Yeah.
kind of halfway between there. So it's just as you're going by that park area. It could have gone earlier except for the railway track, because when you come in, it should go, like technically, if the railway track wasn't there, it would go the block before. But because there's a railway track, they don't want it there. Because if you're looking at the sign and miss the train, things aren't good. So it goes after the railway track to make sure that it doesn't distract you from the train.
They'll slow down when they go across the track.
They should. It's plenty rough.
It's rough.
Yes. Any questions on any of the rest of the checks tonight?
Are we done with Adams now?
From what I understand, everything is mostly done. There's a possibility that there might be a little bit of a wash over the spring, and what I was told is that would be warranty work. The pipe has not been redone yet, but I don't know if that will be Adams or somebody else, but the hill itself, the ditch, is all complete. But that pipe is supposed to be anything different. Having said that, the last time I talked to Mr. Topsky, he said the entire project was done. So I don't know if he doesn't know it didn't get moved yet, or if he changed his mind and likes it where it is. Certainly it can't be moved till after spring runoff.
Yeah.
So if it works fine this spring, maybe we don't need to move it.
Okay.
The project looked really good. I've been by it 20 times in the last.
Yeah, it turned out well, it's just too bad about price tag. You know, it's a beautiful thing, but
The engineer's price tag is on this year.
no, engineering was 12,000 we paid for it already. We haven't seen an invoice for anything else. It wouldn't surprise me if one showed up for a couple $1,000. Because we had them out, they did all the work, and then we talked to them on the phone a couple times, we sent some pictures, so it would have been a few hours in there, but I don't know if that was in their original bid for it or not. So it wouldn't be a shock if there was a little bit more, but it shouldn't be huge. The majority of it was paid for already.
Whole product is
More. If you take into account, there's a couple fines, and then there's dog time on there as well to supervise the project, we're probably closer to 250.
But it's done.
It's done.
But there's some possible hope on the horizon, some reimbursement.
Well, and so here's the interesting thing on that. The province promised during the election campaign, a little before it even, that we were going to get this infrastructure fund. So it was going to be a set amount of funding per capita, and then there was additional funding to apply for. So we applied for the fire hall for the additional. And so two of us just has the stuff over at the right time. We got a letter on the 21st of November that says, this is from Ian Bushy. I'm honored that you've been appointed Minister of Municipal and Urban Affairs and partner with you to make life better for families across the province. I'm pleased to be sending this letter to advise you that our government has provided $211,535.71 in infrastructure funding to your municipalities as per capita share of the $39.9 million announced earlier this year. This funding is available to help you fund your priorities, including inflation that we've faced this year. In the near future, I'll be considering measures our government can take to implement a multi-year funding model for municipalities that provides reliable funding for programs, infrastructure, maintenance, that reflects our partnerships with you in delivering local results for people across Manitoba. I look forward to listening to challenges, opportunities, and ideas as we work together. What it does not have is a check.
That's what I was gonna ask you.
I was gonna say,
There's no check.
please do check.
Yeah, no. So on the 1st of November, we got a similar letter that suggested it might be next year before they did this. But then on the 21st, we have a letter saying it's definitely this year. So as long as it shows up this year, that project was this year, this becomes infrastructure. Because we did great infrastructure there.
Certainly is.
If they mess this up, however, and this doesn't appear until next year, and the project has to be next year, we've got an issue. So we have our fingers crossed to check our eyes soon. This certainly says it's for this year. So, you know, as long as they don't come back, because there was supposed to be some sort of agreement we were going to sign that said, yes, we used it for infrastructure and this is what we did with it. Oh, this is,
We have to fill that.
oh, so we do have a thing now.
That's it.
Does it say,
We're not back maybe before we get the check.
probably.
Yeah.
So we must use it for one or more existing projects already approved for funding pursuant to federal or provincial programs, subject to program staff restrictions, or one or more new projects aligned with the recipient's municipal plans such as an asset management plan, local development plan, regional plan, master transit plan, active transport plan, climate change plan, water management plan, other strategic plans, work undertaken by planners and watersheds, or a combination of both. We have until December 31st, 2026 to expend the money.
What year?
2026.
Wow.
So I would suggest this project will qualify. Because it would be part of our water management plan.
We have to send something into the mail before they issue the check.
Looks like it.
I'm suspecting that's the plan.
So we have to return this by December 8th that we understand our obligations. And then we have to report by January 15th of each year if we've used it or not. So we'll get this sent back and then we'll make up our report and send it in.
So we might get the money for this year, if not, it'll be $211,000 next year.
Yes. It's only Tuesday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I had water or utility, great study. It's working out for tomorrow, so.
Yeah, I think this should work. This should turn out fine.
Well, at least we get.
Yeah, in worst case scenario, if the money doesn't come until next year, as long as that says we can suspend it this year. I just don't want us to have to do another project for $215,000 on top of it, right?
Well, I mean,
We probably have some.
yeah,
It would be nice to not have to have the hoops to jump through,
yeah.
to have it done over.
It'd be nice if we could get that money this year.
Mhm.
If we don't put it
They
in
didn't
the
give
bank,
us a
right?
very big window, it arrived in this office on
And
the
the new bank,
27th.
walk bank.
Away.
Any further discussion? We're still on checks, by the way. He says we were on a rabbit trail. Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We're heading to 5.2 payroll checks. Resolved, be it resolved, that the Council of the Municipality of Swan hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 244 to 258, amount of $24,791.47. If someone wishes to move the resolution. Councillor Neely, someone to second the resolution, please. Councillor Zbirun. Copy of the payroll checks are here. I know that Councillor Kushniryk will have one he wants to mention in camera.
Question about one, two, I guess we can get
Does it happen to be number 26?
that. Sure does.
Okay, that's the one he has questionable as well.
Okay, thank you.
Do we want to leave the resolution till after?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we'll table this for now. And then we will come back to it after in camera. Councillors, you could make sure to remind me after in camera so we do get that passed after. Whether we make changes or not, so we'll do it. We'll go to 5.3. Be resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Indemnities for October, number 4523 to 4540, amount of $9,783.15. Is there a mover? Councillor Zbirun and Councillor Kushniryk. Now you'll recall we canceled the final meeting of November and we moved the December meeting up, which is why we're seeing October now, because we didn't have that meeting after the 15th of November to pass these out. So this is, it really is October we're looking at. The November ones will be at our next meeting. Are there any questions or discussion on the indemnities? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 5.4, the financial report being resolved to Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby receives the financial report for the period ending December 5th, 2023 as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely. Can someone to second the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk, good job, gentlemen. Copy of that report is attached. When I peek through it, I see there's at least one check we need to recode. The Sarah Lake Road check is on a different line than what the budget line was for it, so we'll fix that up. But the end total is the same. It just looks like we overspent the one and underspent the other substantially. Everything else here should be accurate to the check run today. It will show that additional vet clinic check in here for now until I guess we move later on. But that's not a huge amount of difference.
All the gravels in, everything, all the,
Everything so far, crushing, there's crushing going on.
yeah.
So there'll be some more crushing.
I just meant the gravel in the slide is done.
There should be, when it got really warm, road 172, so 171?
And 201.
Yeah, 172 and 201, that's north of the hydro station from Benito, got turned black with mud, so we did put gravel on there.
Sorry, 203, sorry.
203?
203.
Okay. North of the hydro station, and then there's a road, an odd numbered road that goes to the east. We put gravel on those couple miles, even though it was so late in the year because it was black and we were hoping it was going to stink and it was getting so bad. So we'll see. It's an interesting experiment to see what happens to us now. If it's still there, but it melted after that, so the thought is it should have packed in and stuck. But so I don't think I've seen an invoice go through for that. So there's going to be that little bit show up at some point. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We're heading to 6 discussion items. 6.1 is the draft audited financial statement. So on this council version of the agenda, you can see the draft statement. That particular piece is not shared with the public tonight because we feel there's mistakes in it, and we don't want to cause confusion. Everything else on that list, the LUD funds, the utility funds, the restatement needs, all of that is publicly available for people to see. Their auditor is scheduled to be here in 2 weeks' time at our next meeting to present these financial statements, which is good because they're late and we need to get them going. However, there's a couple things. So in 2021, in the utility, there's a substantial amount of charges for operator salaries. And so there's about $3,500 a month for someone to run the water plant, which is pretty heavy, but so be it. But there's also a bunch of overtime. And the overtime is really questionable how there can be overtime on 2 hours a day in the water plant. So I'm suggesting that we should be moving that overtime back to general operator costs. There's also a line called labor adjustment to general operator costs. It was another $1,900. It was unexplained charge to the water. And then there's 2 months that were really strange. So July jumped up to almost $5,200 of wages to run the water system, and October was $7,600. And so I'm suggesting those should be normalized to that average of $3,500, which I still think is high, but there's no way it costs $7,500 in 1 month to run the water system. It's just insane. Altogether, that would make a change to the water of, it takes $20,737 off of the operator expenses. Why that's important is in that final rate application, which is next, because it's showing right now in those 2021 statements that the water system lost a lot of money. And it probably didn't really lose that much because that overtime really shouldn't have been charged to it. So making those changes will help that. The other issue is the LUD. So in the financial statements, it shows the LUD lost $133,000 in 2021. And that includes over $250,000 being spent on road maintenance in the LED. But when we checked the computer, there was nowhere near that much money actually spent. So it appears when they rolled up the accounts, they rolled up something to do with gravel or such into the LED and charged it to the LED, even though on the computer it wasn't. So the computer shows the LED was around $5,000 surplus that year. But the loss is so substantial, if we sign off on those accounts as they sit, we would be required to charge the residents of the LED $133,000 in additional taxes next year to pay it back. And it looks like it's just a mistake. So we're going to take both of those up with the auditors before they come, in hopes that they bring in corrected statements with them. Not say, oh yeah, we have to fix that, and that would prolong this even longer. Because if it can be fixed before they come, hopefully we can still pass them next time around. There's a question about the 2020 audit as well. So in going through the water statements, we show $118,000 loss to the utility in 2020, which is massive considering the utility only normally has a budget of around $100,000. So that was the year that a bunch of money was spent doing the water, the sewer line video work. There's a $108,000 charge there, which is money that was spent, so it's legit. But council at the time chose to take federal gas tax from both the rural and LED accounts. 7226, 4946, and 52,000, and transfer those to the LED because that sewer line work was capital work that was eligible for infrastructure funding. When they did the audit, they changed that from being gas tax to being utility reserve. So instead of counting as income against the study, it counted as borrowing money for the study. So the loss should have been $18,047. But instead it was $118,000. And that's the source of why we're having to charge extra on the water bills right now to pay off the deficit. When really, a bunch of that deficit didn't exist. So we need to have them take a look at that. And if we're right, they need to restate the 2020 financials as well to correct that error so that it doesn't show that huge loss that didn't really exist. So those are in there for you to take a peek at. The utility is there for 20, 21, 22, and 23, so you can see how that's changed over the years. If anyone wants some light reading, it's the detailed statement, so it shows you each and every charge, what it was for, each check that was written and such, so it's all in there. It also shows the bulk water sales, the real water sales, all of that is split out line by line by line, so you can take a look We don't have a resolution to bring with this. It was just information, but we're welcome to discuss it some more if you want, some questions. Try to read these in the next few days if you can, so you have a better feeling of it when we do see the next ones in a couple weeks' time. There wasn't much else I saw. I flipped it a few times just looking for weirdness, and those were the things that seemed to be out of sorts. Any further discussion on those? If not, let's move to 6.2. You'll recall we had a deadline of early November to submit a final rate application. We asked for an extension previously to December 6th, which is tomorrow. So these are due tomorrow morning, but it's here for us to take a look at. Is anybody interested in a really in-depth explanation of how this works? Don't feel shy to ask. I'm perfectly happy to explain. If you don't want to know, that's fine. But if you want to know how it's done,
Maybe, give
Okay.
us, Chris.
so the proper way for setting rates is to look at how much water we sell each year, how much it costs to make all of that water, how much water we put in the lagoon, how much it costs to run the lagoon, everything involved in it. Basically take all the expenses, divide by the amount of liquid we have, and we come up with a figure per gallon of what we should be charging people to make sure it all pays for itself. On top of that, there's certain things that are an admin fee that we charge for. That covers the price of printing the invoices, it covers the price of the stamps, the envelopes it goes in, it covers the CIO's time to supervise, it covers the office lady's time to take the payments and mail them out, and those things go into a separate category. We divide that out by how many people are connected, they each pay the same amount. So in the calculation pages that are attached here, you'll see all those numbers go by. So it shows how many customers we've had, which is 195 customers, the number of meters connected to the system. It shows the amount of water that was sold. So our total sales in 2020 were just over 6 million gallons. In 2023, it was 5.7 million gallons. And there was a study that was on the go already for this, and an application that was already in because we had some interim orders. So we looked at both of those numbers, and the numbers for 2023 are likely slightly low because of when meters are read. So we elected to use the 2020 numbers that were for sure better. In here it notes that we've used those numbers, and then we go ahead using that number for the rest of it. It shows the amount of water metered through, the average consumption we go through. It shows us the service charges we charge now, the water, and this is all 2020 numbers before any rates were changed. And then looks at what actually came in and finds there was, more money came in than we actually sold water for. But a lot of that's accounted for. You pay for 3,000 gallons whether you use it or not. So there's people that only use 1,500 gallons, so they pay for the extra water. So that's all in there. So in the end, we used 5.283 million gallons as the number for the rate setting. We looked then to 2026, which is the far end year on this, because we're looking out a few years. So with inflation to those numbers, what will we be costing in 2026 for the actual water? That's 65,835. We take out the amortization because that's not exactly the same cost. We add a contingency amount in there of 10% for fluctuations in how much water is used. So we add 5,200. We then look at the wastewater costs, which is 32,274. Again, we move the amortization, add contingency of 2,250. The admin costs we have spelled out there at 9760. We then look at our working capital contribution of 1% of the water, the wastewater, and the admin costs. So it's another $1,000 gets added. 195 customers divided out is 55.58 per customer a year. Split into quarterly is 1112, which is lower than the 2181 it was. And we can get into why it got lower when we look at the cast allocation. We then forecast again our water rates, the contingency allowance, the amount of sales of water through meters, but then also the bulk water sales, because those people pay for water as well, but they don't pay for the sewer. So that brings us to a volume of 6.549 million gallons. proposed rate then is just a division thing, so it's a proposed rate of $10.85 per 1,000 gallons. The 2020 rate was $5.74. So it's not quite double, but it is a fair increase. Right now we're at $6.80-ish per 1,000. The bulk water calculations, it gets some rounding applied to it because of how the meter works. So it rounds down to $10.50. And that, I was going to peek at that and see if maybe we should be rounding up to $11, because these calculations changed a couple times, and we should probably round to 11 now. So we may update that before we send this off tomorrow. So essentially you pay $1.10 for 100 gallons of bulk water. The rate before was $10.59, so that one stayed much the same. The wastewater rates are in here again with the contingency added. Now we're not using the bulk water amount because those folks don't pay for sewer because their water goes someplace else, we don't treat it. So we divide that out by the smaller number of gallons being used. So the proposed rate there is $7.11. Previous rate was $6.06. We look at the calculation of income, so this, we just run that backwards now. We take those rates, we times them by how much we're going to sell to make sure that we're getting the number of money we should have. So that shows our total income of $103,556.28. We also have the deficit recovery of $2.54 a thousand, so that generates another $13,400 of income. That all turns into the financials forecast, which is a very big long spreadsheet. It shows for the 2026 year with all of those expenses and all that income, that the answer will be $9,990 of profit, with $9,000 of that put into the reserve fund, leaving $990 of profit that year. Which is, any profit is a good thing. It's supposed to break even, so it shouldn't be a huge amount of profit. The previous years, if you look at it, you show a bigger amount of profit. The reason for that is because the debenture on the sewer line ends in 2025. So normally there has to be enough profit generated to pay off that debenture every year. And there's a line above it that shows that income. So in 2026, the income goes down because there's no debenture payment from the property taxes, but the expenses go down as well. So that's why it balances itself out. The other thing that's important here is the cost allocation plan. So previously for the utility paid 35% of all wages paid out, which at one time wasn't that bad of a thing, but as the staffing has changed, it doesn't make a lot of sense for it to pay 35% because there isn't people that only do it anymore. So instead we looked at changing to the actual hours used. So there's a statement here that shows 2 hours of CAO's time per month, 5 hours of assistant time, billing services, 200 customers, 4 bills a year, the postage and supplies, the meter reading is part of the daily operations, accounting, 2% of the audit costs are assigned, common office space, 2% of the utilities and taxes for this building are assigned to the utility. The office overhead, they pay 2% of the photocopier computers just because they use a little bit, so there's some in there. That gives us that yearly admin estimate of $62.60. Then we have the operating construction costs, so there we put in some mileage. And we don't necessarily really use mileage, but we do use the truck. So this is meant to compensate for a little bit of truck time that's used from unit 38 right now, but whatever the truck is, they're driving, you don't drive it to the water plant and drive it back. This pays for the wear and tear on the truck, so it's $3,818 there. 2 hours a day of labor at union rate, and this is at the level 4 rate, I believe it is, to make sure it captures it all. Flushing for 2 days a year, contingency operations for 10 full days a year, which are meant to capture if we're flushing them. Well, flushing's there, but when something breaks and they're out with somebody digging a hole for a day, it pays for 10 days of their time to just be there continually for whatever goes wrong. Road repairs are billed at actual cost. Public works buildings we don't charge them for. So it brings our yearly operating cost to $26,946, which is what then goes into that forecast for how much it costs for people. Then we add to all of that the chlorine, the hydro bills, the phone bill at the water plant. And it's hydro bills at the water plant, the well site, and the lift station go into it. So it's all where we get that from. And then it gets divided out. Questions on how all that works?
In case I didn't miss anything, can you repeat all that?
I could. This is all I've done for 2 weeks.
I was just gonna say, you must have studied that very well.
I sat in the hotel room with Brandon.
You must have studied that very well.
Brian, you could tell it to him later.
I'd have to study that for a week.
I guess my only question is, the reserves, is there enough, due to the age of the infrastructure, is there enough being put into the reserves?
So a couple answers to that. We're putting in, most years 10,000, one year $9,000. It's more than has been put in before. Is it enough? I doubt it. I can't see that $10,000 a year is enough.
But that's roughly 10% of the budget.
Now, there's also the one other change that's proposed in here in the rate plan is doubling the amount of rental on the fire hydrants. Because the rental on the fire hydrants is supposed to pay for the upkeep, but several of them need to be replaced. And that's $8,000 or $9,000 a pop. So, if we double that up to $10,000, we can replace one fire hydrant a year, which over time will get them all replaced.
I wasn't talking fire hydrants, I'm talking the main line. Built in the 60s.
And there will unfortunately come a time.
That would be a heck of a big bill at one time.
Bozeman has been suffering with that. I don't know if you know their troubles there. But they've had 10 or 12 main breaks in the last year. And they've got some theories on why that's happening. It's not just the old water pipes. There's a couple other things that have gone on there that they think is contributing to why it's breaking so often. But that's what you would see, right? You'd start having a break every year, a couple breaks a year, and just get worse and worse. Until you looked at what do we do? Do we replace a piece of line? And that would be, the only answer to that is there would have to be infrastructure funding. You know, we would have to be one of those funding programs because we could never afford it otherwise.
Yeah, even to do a certain amount a year.
With all the digging that they did, the streets are just terrible. I mean, not paved, they're not-
Bozeman.
Yeah, terrible.
We've been very lucky in Reeve.
Yes.
We've had some breaks, but
That's what I mean, I guess. Should we be doing more preparation for this? We just wait. Hope we're all dead before it goes up. I don't know.
best case scenario, people start using more water.
We what?
If people start using more water is the best case.
Yeah.
Because then we make more money and that all ends up in reserve every year.
We need more people, we just want water. Anyways, that's all.
Do you have a resolution? Because we're required to file with the application. Be it resolved, the Council, Municipality of Swan West, approve the final rate application with the new utility as attached. Is there someone who would like to move the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk, somebody to second the resolution. Councillor McGregor, did I see your hand? Good job. Any further discussion? I will note that there's a possibility the Public Utilities Board may ask us to go talk to the people who know about this. If they ask that, we'll schedule a meeting and go there and I'll do a much slower explanation.
Just read that, what you did.
We
Have a nice evening.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 6.3, engineered rubber aggregate service agreement. So this we talked about last time around. The gentleman promised to give us a copy of the agreement. This is the agreement for council to review. Unless someone's in a heck of a hurry, I suggest we will just review this and think about it later on.
Takes half an hour to read it.
It does, and I haven't read it yet.
Have we got plans of possibly joining us somewhere?
We thought about it. We would have to pick a gravel pit because we would put a pile of it someplace. So we were kind of kicking tires that if we had a gravel pit that we own that we don't use anymore, that the gravel's all gone, it would be a spot to put the pile.
They would just haul it there, but in that thing says they have to apply it and they're full control of everything.
Yeah, we'll have to do some more reading.
And then there's no talk about some anticipating expense on that side. You better read it.
Yeah.
Why not, maybe we do.
Yeah, what he told us was totally free, don't worry about it, but yeah.
A few miles or something, or a couple, or just try it and see what happens.
6.4, kennel license application. This likely needs to go in camera. Having said that, I would suggest that even after an in-camera discussion, we likely shouldn't be making a decision on this yet. I think we need to look at some process here to determine what to do next. So we'll discuss it in camera tonight, but I don't know if that's going to take the shape of some sort of public hearing or something, because I think we need some input from the surrounding area before we make a decision. 6.5, caveat development agreement request to discharge. So we received a letter from a lawyer with regard to property. This is on the airport road. I don't know how many of you are familiar with it besides Councillor Neely, and I went out there to see it. So there is a street there. It's a private street that runs to the south, and it's a little cul-de-sac, and it was subdivided into lots all the way around it. So there's a couple houses there, but there's a couple vacant lots. What the lawyer has indicated is that the owners have someone interested in buying a couple of those lots. However, to be allowed to have the development, previous council some time ago entered into a development agreement with the owners. And the development agreement required them to undertake certain things. This was signed in May of 2014. Once those things were done, they were free to do what they wanted with the lots. However, not all of those things have actually been done. So it required a road be built, which appears to be there. The cul-de-sac had to be there. But it also required some water handling, which I'm not entirely sure with the snow if I can see if that's done or not. And it required a street light be installed at the intersection. And the street light is most definitely not there. So the lawyer has indicated that the people wishing to purchase the land don't want to have to comply with those rules to use it. But the rules haven't been complied with. So we need to make a decision at some point if we're willing to say, yeah, it's been a while, just do what you feel like. Or if we're going to say, no, the rule was you had to put in a street light for safety, you had to have these roads done properly, and you have to do those things.
Isn't there some houses there already?
There's some.
Yeah, so I mean, it should be, still should stick to it. Should still stick to it, shouldn't do that.
We probably would take this in camera for a more in-depth discussion, but that's the gist of what's going on here. And then we can pick it up in camera if you folks are ready to talk about it tonight, or if y'all want to go look at it first, or we'll figure it out. 6.6, there was some discussion going on of equipment, so some quotes have come in. We don't have a resolution prepared here tonight. We're not suggesting we're buying any of these tonight, but the quotes are here so you can kind of see what they are at least. These are, I believe, all for trailers. Am I right on that?
Yes.
Yes. So this is a trailer to haul the 210 track hoe. So a few different options for what it is. The answer to if we could afford it is the answer we don't know yet about that infrastructure funding. If the infrastructure funding comes, then it's good. Otherwise, no. So, given the timelines, I would suspect this is looking for something for capital planning next year. But the quotes are there so you can see them and see what we're up against for that kind of a trailer. The Coles Notes version is expensive. With taxes, one of the quotes is for $185,000. So it's not cheap. There's a quote here for $204,000.
Well, for all we're going to use it, I'm going to go back to a used one. Why wouldn't we consider a used one? Because we're not going to be using this unit every day. It's not going to be.
I think
I know what we talked about before, you put it, you plan to buy it, by the time you get everything in place, it's sold to somebody else.
Well, I think if we were to decide we're going to do this, we would be well to say, okay, we're going to do this. We're willing to spend up to this on a good used one and give that authorization ahead of time. And say, for the next 3 or 4 months, if we find a good used trailer and it's under this price, buy it. Or even just say, if we find a good used one, text the other councillors. If everybody says yes, then buy it. So we have something on paper saying to do it, but then we leave that time to look for one. Because we did find a used one, and then it was gone. You know, we can't respond quickly enough.
Well, that's what I mean, is there
Yeah.
some way we can put and save half of this money,
Yeah.
at least?
Because we, like you say, we're gonna use this thing,
So have something in order so that if a useful does come up, we can
buy it.
buy it without waiting for 2 weeks to have a meeting and decide we're gonna buy it.
And then it's gone.
And then it's not.
I think that would make a lot of sense.
I agree too.
We'll leave the quotes here tonight, so we'll at least know what it was worth. And we will sort out what kind of, there's going to be a complication with the year end, so we may have to come back to this the first meeting in January. Exactly, because it's going to make a difference which year the money's spent in.
Yeah, yeah.
But we'll sort out how we're going to do that, and we'll get something here so we can all say, this is our plan. Yeah.
This is for the 210.
This is
Was there something we're talking about, skid steer or no?
So we have a trailer that fits on right now.
But is it heavy enough?
We have one that's heavy enough, but it might be too heavy.
What's that?
It might be a little too heavy.
Oh,
So-
there's a skid steer?
The trailers, okay, so we've got two trailers, one's 24,000 pound and one's 14,000 pound. 24,000 pound is a pinball hitch so we can pull the tandem, the 14,000 pound is gonna be light.
Yeah. That machine weighs like, plus the.
Yeah, we're gonna be sitting around 16,000 pounds, I think, with everything roughly in there.
Okay, so we do have a trailer though, if it'll work.
We can pull it with the tandem truck.
But not with the half ton.
But
Not with the one.
not with the half, our dually down. So,
Well, even the dually would be,
Tight.
our dually probably wouldn't have legally pulled it,
no.
so.
Okay, need a 21,000 pound dry axle. No problem.
I can further share updates on some of those topics. The skid steer was to arrive last week. They did not. It's in Winnipeg, they've upgraded the door. There seems to be some confusion as to where the scrubbing head and the snow blower are. And they're finding those and reuniting them with the unit now, and then bringing it for delivery. But they have not yet provided a timeline. We do not call them each and every day to remind them that it's overdue. So Scott's been taking care of one of them each day to say, so you promised, so where is it? Because we want to be scrubbing right now while there's no snow. Why isn't this here yet? So we're waiting for a plan on that. Part of that was the salesman had promised he would drive it himself, and then he found out he needs a class 3 license to drive it. And so he can't bring it himself, but he can't buy a piece yet. That's turning silliness. There was a concern raised today about a salesman that attended to our shop and said some disparaging things about some of our staff. So we can discuss that a little more on camera if you folks like. I instructed Scott to call the salesman boss and discuss the conversation that was had today and ensure that doesn't reoccur. It was a salesman from the same supplier, which was unfortunate. But not the salesman that was a skid steer guy, a different one that we through town. On the 210 trailer front, we were going to use our own truck to haul the gravel for that road that needed a little bit of gravel. It idled about half an hour of our way up, traveled about 35 feet installed. It wouldn't restart and the engine will turn over. The thought is that it's a valve has dropped. So it's gone to location.
Chad.
Yeah.
Chad has it, I don't know if the head is off yet, but we're going to be pulling the head off to confirm some valves that are off to determine if we need a head, or if we can just do valves, or if it needs a motor.
Or if it needs a new truck.
What unit is it?
The camera,
Did put the valve through the piston or did I?
don't know yet. Don't think so, because they could get it running again, and then it would just eventually stall again. So, I don't think it would be there, but
Let's throw it off and inside there.
Exploratory surgery so far, and then we'll know what we're up against. If it's really simple, we'll just fix it. If it's really bad, we need to have a discussion about what we'll do next. So, that's at least probably the best time of year for that to happen.
Yeah.
Because we've got a couple months before we need to use it. I think that's everything I had pretty quickly got dates. You don't know, oh, there's a grader. Chris's grader has a warranty issue that needs to be done. That needs to be done someplace other than here. And so that leads into the discussion about the salesman. So over a month ago, they asked for the grader. We took the grader out of service. They were supposed to come pick it up. They didn't appear for it. We said, where are you coming? Oh, we're coming next week now instead. So the grader remained in the service where we picked it up. They never showed up. Time has gone on. We put the grader back into service because they never came. Then they said, well, how come you never sent the grader? Well, you haven't come for it yet. And that led into this discussion about whose fault that is. So that grader is going for warranty work fairly soon. The conversation I had with Scott today was that there's no snow in the forecast for the next week, so they can come get it tomorrow, and they can have it back here before it snows. We'll see how that turns out for them. But that's also a conversation he's going to have with the gentleman's boss about why this has dragged on for over a month, and we're not going to be without a grader. We've suggested if they can't guarantee it's back here before snow, we'd like them to bring us a spare. Because it's not our fault it's not done yet. Correspondence, the only thing we haven't, didn't make it to the agenda yet is that letter I read you before about the money that was came in. 8, unfinished business. We started on this last time around. This was the Swan Valley Fire Board. Now, I believe we have to have the text of it provided to council tonight, and I don't see it attached here. If you give me a minute, I'll attach it. Nothing's changed. Let me go get it. So there's, yeah, it's on the last one. So I'm just going to go pull it off the last one and pull it onto this one. Just so it's officially sitting there. We can't say, oh, where was it? Here, then attachments, this. So it is now attached. If you want to refresh, maybe it's not attached. Oh, it's mad because it's already attached to the previous agenda. I'm going to rename it. I'll just change the order of the numbers on it. They won't recognize it anymore.
What meeting was it on before?
November.
The last one, the 14th.
14th.
November 14th. Before it came into.
Oh, so it is attached, or you can look at the old meeting, whatever works for you guys. It's there. So I'm going to read the resolution, and then we can have some discussion. Be it resolved, the Municipality of Swan West hereby gives third reading to bylaw number 0103-23, being a bylaw to establish the Swan Valley Fire Board this 5th day of December 2023. Be it further resolved, the Reeve and Interim CAO be authorized to sign the bylaw. Is there someone that wishes to move the resolution? Councillor Burick, someone to second it? Councillor Kushniryk. We'll open it up for discussion. Last time around, we took a peek at this. This is the same bylaw passed by the Swan River, so it's identical bylaw with the name changed to which community at the top, so we both make the same fire board. Questions, comments, discussion from anyone?
Well, this is just overall, it's an agreement, doesn't it?
Yeah, this
Doesn't
doesn't
go to meat and potatoes. This has gone through twice already, right?
Yeah.
This is a third reading of the bylaw. So on third reading, we require a recorded vote. Our options tonight are 3. You can vote yes, you can vote no, or you can abstain. Under the Municipal Act, if you choose to abstain tonight, you must provide a reason why, which we then record in the minutes so people can see. Typically, that would be, if you were going to vote no and you wanted to object, you would abstain instead, and then you can say your reason why, so it gets typed in there for you. But if you didn't want a reason, you just vote no. Does that make sense to everybody? Any further discussion on the bylaw? Hearing none, we'll call the question. We'll start with those in favor by show of hands, please. I see Councillor, well, I see everybody. Pick. With my belief, everybody voted. Does anyone not voted yet? No? Okay.
You didn't put your hand
There we go.
Just taken.
up.
Now we're official.
Now we're legal.
Yeah. Committee reports. Let us start with, we'll do the order was listed here to Councillor Zbirun.
That meeting I had, right, we're getting a grant, They're ready for some upgrading, their x-ray machines, and we went over the budget and all kinds of fun things like that.
I got a copy of the quote for the x-ray machine. It was so cool because it spells out every single piece so you can see what an x-ray machine costs. It's like, oh, it's not that bad.
But this is they're still using the original x-ray, but this is just the software so they can upgrade and develop the quicker, faster, and
It'll be digital now, eh?
pardon me.
It's digital
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
just,
yeah.
it's instantly on the
Yeah.
computer. That's so cool.
Keith was pretty excited about it anyway, so that's all that matters. in the
Keith
end.
is in there. Obviously.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's all I did.
Councillor Kushniryk.
I think garage is the last one, so we just LED, not a lot there. We talked about some Christmas lights had to go up, they're done. Candy bags for Santa Day coming up, that's on the 16th, I believe. Anything else?
Can we encourage the LED committee to make a service plan for next year?
Yes.
Get that in as soon as possible so we can not budget everything not quite as long as last year. Councillor McGregor. Councillor Blosha.
I attended Health Foundation meeting, just very good meeting, and yeah, I sent an update, just the CT scan, things are starting to roll along, which was nice, and other than that, not too much. And then a couple days later, decided checks for the other parts.
I assume, I think I have this right, the CT scan of $100,000 was more than enough release now.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact amount, but that's already, and there was still some donations to it. So that was nice. That was community contribution, so that means municipality contribution doesn't have to be,
Sweet,
which is nice, yeah.
for sure.
It means that everybody appreciates it.
Anything else?
That was all I had.
Councillor Neely
Nothing to report.
and Councillor Burick.
I have nothing to report on that. Very quiet.
I'd like to tell you I had nothing to report.
You have nothing to report?
I'd like to tell you that. However, that's not the case. Pull up a chair. This interim CEO, I attended AMM last week, which was great. Before AMM, on Monday, I went down a little early. I was invited to tour MTCC, which is the Medical Transportation Coordination Center. So they dispatch all ambulances, and everything except the city of Winnipeg. They dispatch over there. So we spent an hour and a half or so looking at how everything works, right from when you call 911 until the ambulance arrives at your door, and how the planes get moved around. We met all the people that do that, which was kind of neat. And also looked at all the backup systems because they have all the stuff that here's this room that we use, and here's a whole other one for when it breaks. And when that breaks, then there's this. So it's pretty neat how they have that all set up. And in the third version of it, it's a binder of paper and a two-way radio. And away they go again. So it's pretty well thought out how they do it. They also have 2 full-time mapping people. So we spent some time discussing rural address signs and how best to get our rural address signs into their system. So I think we have a bit of a plan developed for that now, which is good. But very entertaining being there and seeing it all. Then on Tuesday, AMM started officially. So we heard from a bunch of people. Tuesday morning was all about economic development and community development. So the gentleman who wrote 13 Ways to Kill Your Community was there. And he was talking about, in communities especially like ours, but everywhere, the neighbors. And the whole idea of trying to not have the neighbor be the enemy. And he talked about, the stuff he's written on it is my mom the enemy. Because, you get in this real mindset of, we're against the town. When someone says, but doesn't your mother live in town? Well, she's the enemy. So it was really good. He you know, he's funny and, but it's very thought-provoking and just, you know, thinking about, yeah, you know, trying to get along. We also had a panel presentation that morning from different CAOs and municipal politicians that are retired now. So the former mayor of Brandon was there, and he started by saying, I'm never running for political office again, so I can say whatever the hell I please this morning. And then he actually was open about some of the things Brandon faced while he was mayor. Rather than the sugar-coated version you'd normally hear by someone that's hoping to get elected again, he was very raw about some of the challenges. And there was even a CAO there that was equally raw. He was a CAO for over 30 years, and he talked about how, you know, sometimes council is great, and sometimes there are a bunch of nopes. And he just, you know, explained, you know, what do you do, how do you make it work, how do you transition. So it was really neat stuff. Into the afternoon, it was a little bit more meat and potato stuff. We spent some time at the trade show. EMO was there, so we talked to them about rural address signs as well. Talked to many of the different people we work with, so the different equipment vendors and such. Visited to the sign people and just, you know, got updates on what's so different. Into Tuesday night was the ice breaking session, so we both attended that. Spent much of the night meeting the new CEO from Manitoba Disposal. Getting to know him, which was good to build that relationship up and know where he's been and what he's done. So he's new to the community. He's only been here 3 or 4 weeks, but he's certainly full of energy. And boy, he has plans for Manitoba Disposal. It's good to see him all over. Most recently in Melford. He was with Melford for a little less than 2 years. He's been a lot of places. So it's good though. We all got to meet and visit and talk. We've had some of the Manitoba Disposal guys at our table, so we visited with them some. We also had some folks from other municipalities drop by, so just get to meet everybody. Into Wednesday, we did more of the workshop type things. So I know Pat really wants to speak for a long time about it. She attended one on how to deal with difficult situations and people, how do you resolve conflicts without them getting bigger, how do you make them get smaller, which is always a challenge, right? But it's something that has to happen. I spent some time with the recycling people and did a workshop with them about the new plans for recycling in Manitoba. And they're moving to a full producer paid program. So they have waited a year for the government to approve their plan, and it never got approved before the election. So they haven't yet met the minister responsible, so they're hoping their plan gets approved. If it does, in 4 years' time, there will be no more MS. Yeah, those things, we won't get money from that anymore as a partial amount. We will make the choice. If we wish to run recycling, we'll run it, and they'll pay the full amount. If we don't want anything to do with it, they won't run recycling in our community. So there will no longer be a portion paid for, it will be all paid for. It's just a question of if we want to be involved. If we do, there's an opportunity to use local people that actually live here to do it. If we don't, we'll be bringing people in from outside the community. That happens now. They intend to provide recycling to every residence in Manitoba, but only residential. Commercial is still for us to deal with if we want commercial recycling, or if we want to pay on their own. And that may look different in places, so it doesn't mean you're going to go to every house and pick it up. There'll be depots set up. And on Video, we would assume they do household pickup, but we just don't know yet. So that's all to come in the next few years' time. But good news, I think, because especially for the town, for us, we've never been able to do recycling for the amount of money they've given us. So it would be nice for them to pay the rest of the bill. So that was very informative. I took in a conversation with municipal relations about different granting programs. Cole's notes of that is we should probably be doing more with the Building Sustainable Communities Fund here. We should be applying as council for some things because we could be getting half off of some stuff. But I'm sure we can find some projects in our municipality that we should do anyway that we can pay for half. I didn't spend a lot of time brainstorming, but even some of the stuff in the campground, if we wanted to upgrade some things in the campground video, we could put that application in and get half the money back. But that could go for cemeteries, that could go for a lot of things that we could be accessing support grant money for. So they had folks that had built a new pool. We were there. Not the Swanner pool. It was an outdoor pool. They managed to do that for substantially less money than Swanner did. And the operating costs less too. But they couldn't do it all in one batch. So they've done phase 1 and phase 2, and now they're going to do phase 3, which is a campground. So they're explaining how to split a project up. So if you have a really big project, what do you do so you have little chunks of it? which is interesting to know how to make that work, because sometimes you look and say, oh, this is so big that wouldn't work. Well, split it up properly and it would, because you do it over 2 years. And they also had the community of Russell was there, they're amalgamated now, and they were speaking about granting that's available for you to have a consultant come and tell you what you could do better. So in Russell's case, they received $75,000 to have a consultant come and tell them how to better collect their garbage. And I guess if it's better or not is a matter of personal preference. When they explained the new plan, I was like, I'm not sure I'd vote for that at council, but their council did, it was their choice. But they had a consultant come in and look at how they do it, look at how they could do it, and show the costs of different things. So that type of funding's over there too. If we ever get into thinking, hey, are we doing this right? The government will give us money to have someone figure it out for us. So that was very good. Wednesday night, we had the gala evening. So for that, it was the 25th anniversary of A&M, so a lot of tributes to that. Ralph Green, if you folks know him, he was inducted as a life member to A&M this year, so he's the new inductee. His worship, the mayor, came down from his pedestal on top to us mere mortals in the crowd, and greeted us once and shook our hands, and then he went back to sit with his friends in the crowd because he's on the executive at A&M now. He can go sit up there. He even got piped in to opening ceremonies. He got followed by him, so he's quite happy, I think, of his role there. Into Thursday, we did some stuff in the morning. Walter Cheques was there. He spoke. He's the former commander of Canadian Armed Forces, so he spoke about motivating troops and motivating staff, and how you share that power to empower them to do something. How he would deal with people, not just the good parts, but when something bad happened. How do you deal with that next? What do you do the next day? In his case, one of the commanders shot and killed someone in a community at home, domestic violence. So what do you do the next day when you've put this guy in that command and he's killed his wife in that community? So there's some interesting stuff there, just thoughts on what to do next, how to do it. He told a very interesting story about search and rescue. He says in Canada we don't realize how good we have it here. And he was talking about a gentleman from another country that had come, and he was bound to return with a snowshoe to the North Pole. And so he had all the supplies, and he set out snowshoeing, and after a few days he fell through the ice. And he dug himself back out of the ice and set up his tent and figured he was going to die because he's wet and he can't get dry and he's cold and doesn't know what to do next. And finally, before he died, decided he would give him a push the button on his emergency locator to call for help because maybe it's worth paying the bill. And so search and rescue was dispatched again, and they came and landed, and the guy came to the tent and opened the door, and the gentleman started by saying, I have to tell you, he says, I don't have any insurance, and I can't afford to pay for this. And the young guy said, oh, you're in Canada now? She's all free, boy. And he said, this is really good. I guess it costs us a lot of money, but look at how well we look after people here, which is always nice to hear. There was a resolution section of the meeting, as per always. I managed to sit through them all, which we didn't stop for lunch, so we carried on through the whole meeting. There was one resolution I spoke on, which was a resolution about the code of conduct. They were asking A&M to do some changes to how that works, so there's perhaps a more fair process for everyone. Maybe not surprisingly, there were other people that spoke on it too, that didn't think the current system works as well as it should. So, otherwise,
We got to click our way through 51 resolutions.
yeah, 51 resolutions we got. Oh, that was great. None of them were too surprising. There was one resolution that was somewhat controversial about the idea of portioning property taxes. So a slight majority wanted the province to allow us to change up portioning on our own, and specifically farmland portioning to go as low as 1% on farmland portioning, which is where the controversy came from the crowd, because a lot of people didn't think it would be appropriate to have a municipality where farmers were portioned at 1% and residential and commercial were portioned at 65%. Yet there were some municipalities that spoke in favor of that. I thought that the farmers shouldn't pay, that it's for residents to pay for the roads in the rural areas. It was kind of shocking to see that difference across the room. But in the end, the resolution passed, and it was 67% support of being able to set it ourselves. And they said you don't have to change it, but they want the ability to. So we'll see. I don't imagine the province will allow it. But that's probably the most controversial of the resolutions. There was one defeated as well. And it was kind of, I don't know, it was reacting to each other, it was kind of silly. There was a reason why it was defeated, it just didn't make
deserves
sense.
to be.
Yeah, it was very rare to see a resolution defeated there, but sometimes they just are. There was some discussion, lively discussion on lift assist for fire departments, because right now, you know, a lot of ambulance attendants can't necessarily lift someone when they go to a call, so they call the fire department, the municipality pays for that, not shared health. So there's some discussion that they're not wanting the province to pay those bills, much like MPI will. So if we get called to lift somebody into an ambulance, we get some money for that rather than just paying for it. That was fairly easy for people to understand. What shocked some people is that there's a few municipalities where the fire department has been called multiple times to the hospital. These hospital staff haven't been able to lift someone, so they then call the fire department to come into the hospital to lift the person. And they felt that that was above and beyond what a fire department should be doing. That
Something out, look, it's just, you know,
those particular ones, for some reason, that wasn't working. So, yeah. Now, that's the majority of what went on at AMM. If you ever get a chance to come, you know, I don't mean to shame you, because I know everybody's busy and has stuff going on, but if you ever get a chance, it's really great to attend, because there's so much goes on there.
Did you get a chance to speak with Mr. Highways, or
It did not, we requested a meeting, unfortunately, we weren't granted one.
you weren't?
She did attend part of the meeting. The Premier came as well. The Premier spoke at length about wanting a new day with municipalities where we're considered equals to the provincial government. If everything he says is true, it would be amazing. Let's hope we can deliver on it. If he can deliver his promises, wouldn't it be great? They've promised increased funding for next year for us. But again, that depends, we'll see what comes in the budget. He did invite the AMM representatives to help him write the budget. So they will be attending. I can share that His Worship Jacobson did meet with the Minister of Justice as part of his AMM duties. We were not granted our 4 municipalities a meeting with him, but he has agreed for the 4 heads of council to travel to Winnipeg, where we will meet with him in his office for longer than we would have had AMM to discuss the GIS unit and other concerns in Swanborough. So that is hopefully being set up in the next couple of weeks before budget is finalized, with the hopes that there's budget funding available for some of that. And it's probably not a surprise to see what's happening with houses in Swan in the last couple of weeks. There is a concerted effort there that we've all been pushing for. Much of that is the neighborhood safety folks that come to town and have started looking at those houses and started looking at what to do with them. I don't know, probably shouldn't share all the detail of that in public, but in camera I could probably share a little bit more about one house and what was found there, which had them quite concerned and interested in seeing some more.
No, quite a bit, but what's the status of this special police force, 3-person department, 3-person group?
So it isn't going ahead yet. We've talked about it. We've talked with Mountain, Jonas Bozeman, Swanner and Swanner West are generally in favor of it from speaking to the councils. Mountain was, then wasn't, and I think they're back on to being in favor again. Minnetonka's Bozeman's been a little harder to read. I think they're kind of going towards that.
The 600,000 a year.
No, 600,000.
650 a year.
A year.
And that's, from what I've heard from Minnetonka's Bozeman, is let's see this minister first and see if he'll pay for half. It's kind of the hope. I think realistically they're not going to. Because if they pay for half for us, there's 136 more places that also want to pay for half. And the bill is going to be astronomical. So, we'll see. From talking to Minnetonka's Bozeman, the feeling I got was if the minister said no, they were going to pay the full share of it. But they wanted to hear that answer first.
Would that be on the cap too, or how would it?
The thought was per cap.
So are you gonna pay any?
Sorry?
Are you gonna pay any?
I think, and they haven't passed anything, so see how that straw poll, see what people are thinking. From what I gather, they will, that everybody will pay the equal share. I think, but no one's committed to it officially yet. But I think before anyone passes a resolution committing to it, we'll know those answers firmed up what's happening. We'll probably have a discussion between some of us.
Everybody have to know beforehand how much they're voting for. all you gotta know is what the players are in the game.
Isn't that, what is it, 600,000?
For
For 1 year.
Per year, for 3 years.
Yeah, 1 year.
Yeah, so it's
It'll
almost.
take them about 2 years to clean the place.
Yeah, I know that, but I mean, that was, about, 3 men, those 3 officers.
I don't think you get a lot of resistance from people in the community.
The resistance that came from Mountain, they went out and talked to a bunch of people in the community. And the people said absolutely, because it's about $35 a person if we do it for the whole valley, right? Which incidentally is what we pay for the CBC each year too. Each
Oh, they're in trouble.
Yeah, they are. Pay more for them.
It was on CTV, not CBC. Anyways.
They talked to people, they said, yes, we have no problem paying that, but can you guarantee those people when they're arrested will stay in jail? Well, we can't guarantee that. And as soon as they said, well, we can't guarantee that, that's the problem. So the decision like, well, we don't want to pay that. But I understand
They're
that.
so miserable, they don't want to be here.
Exactly. And you see that happening in Swanage right now. Life has been made very miserable for some people in the last couple of weeks. And will be made a lot more miserable in the coming weeks. And we need to expand that out. I was speaking to some people yesterday, a group of them that had all called the helpline for residents in our community, hoping to have it at the same treatment. So hopefully it's on the list, but I can't show you the list publicly of who's next. But there is a list.
But I think if we decided to do this, we'd like a good chance of the public support.
Oh,
absolutely.
I haven't talked to anyone that doesn't
No,
support it.
me neither. I would say.
I would think when we do budgeting, we'll put it in there. But we also have a plan for where that money's coming from, remember? We've got a fairly baked plan for where to get it from other savings. So, on that other front, shared services, no meeting dates have been circulated yet by the town. So we continue to wait for their input. And the clock continues to tick. We'll see. It will be unfortunate if it's March for them, but not unfortunate for us, I suppose. But we'll sort something out with them, I'm sure. On Friday night, we had a Christmas party. Many of you were able to attend. We had more people than we expected, which was a beautiful thing after all these years to have extra instead of fewer. Last year, if you remember, we had empty chairs. This year, we had to find some chairs.
We had twice as many people, I figured, we did last.
It was
But I was pissed, or they didn't wear a kilt.
Don't have time to put it on.
well,
That's real funny.
we've been hearing views from the staff. Those of you that were there know we did a bit of a team building exercise there with the staff, and it went very well. And many of them are talking about looking forward to the Christmas party next year. And many of them have already said, boy, it just feels like we're all working together as a team. We all did that together, and that's good. So it seems to have been great. So we'll see how that lasts. Councillor McGregor.
We should mention that Reeve did a very good job of hosting that.
Yeah.
MC.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was well done, Bill. Very
Just
good.
the VA system doesn't work good for me, but I hear it.
It was very good.
I'm getting better at reading with my binoculars a little long legally.
It was one of the best banquets I've attended.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Everything. I find it, I don't know what do you call that, Chinese auction or what, I don't know what they have different names. We didn't do it in Benino. And it was, and Rick Kenneth, Chuck and I were joking about, Neely still looking at a pair of gloves. Way back 30 years ago, but whatever, it's a lot of fun.
Yes.
I sat beside a lot of like Mennonite people there, and I didn't know that they could have so much fun.
What
You
don't
didn't
know
realize they were
about-
regular people?
Right, no,
They had a lot of fun. That one lady was up there about 6 times. They kept taking her gift over.
They had a good time.
What surprises me is that Councillor Burick and I both attend a Mennonite church. And you think we can't have any fun?
There's different levels.
It was a good time, everybody had fun. I'm a little ticked off that Byron didn't steal at least one box of chocolates from Cheryl and bring it to the beach.
That
Probably
is
couldn't find them.
probably gone already. Probably ate them.
One box.
That is my report for the evening. If anyone has questions or comments for anyone tonight, it's a great opportunity to share, discuss. Here, nothing there. Next up, we have an in-camera session on the agenda, so we're going to take those couple items that we discussed before, put them in there. They're not on the agenda yet. We'll get them moved in. We also have correspondence from our union tonight we're going to review. There's not a lot of news there, but we'll look at the letter and tell you what happened after we got it. In the meantime, though, let's take a break for about 10 minutes or so, so everyone can check the weather, see if it's snowing or not. And I'm sure some of the councillors will let us know when they get back.
On the windows.
Yes, that's it. Welcome back, everyone. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523, the Municipal Council shall meet as a committee of the whole to close the meeting and continue discussions in camera regarding personnel matters, negotiations, preliminary discussions, and unresolved legal matters. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, some of the second resolution. Councillor Neely. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. In camera session, we are going to return to 4.2 on the agenda. Be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 244 to 258 in the amount of $24,791.47. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely and Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We can advise that we did take a peek at 5.4 and 5.5 in camera. Some direction has been given to staff on that, and we'll be coming back to a future meeting, both of those. Otherwise, I believe that covers off most of what we could update you from the in-camera session. Does anybody else have further business, notice, a motion, or anything else we need to attend to tonight? Hearing nothing, we'll move to number 11. Be resolved, this meeting shall now adjourn at 9:25 p.m. Be it further resolved, the next meeting is Tuesday, December 19th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Is there a mover?
Yes.
Councillor Blosha, some of the second resolution.
When was the next one?
19.
December 19th. It's out
Yeah,
of
okay,
sequence.
yeah. That's what I thought it would be.
So it would normally be the next week, but it's moved up because of Christmas. Councillor Neely, you seconded the resolution?
Yep, well,
Okay.
actually, I moved it, but I'll settle for second.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thank you for making that work. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Those abstaining? That's in favor, was it?
In favor,
Yes, it was
yeah.
in
Thank
favor.
you.
It's not
That is carried.
Valentine's.